So I'd like to introduce you to today's speakers. I myself am Sharon Bly, and I lead the Health and Wellness agenda here at the Consumer Goods Forum. I'll be joined by the co-leads of our working group on advertising to children, Frank from Ahold and Fritz from Mars, who you'll be hearing from throughout today's webinar. So just some very quick housekeeping notes before we get started. You'll notice that you're all on mute. This is to make sure that everyone can hear the speakers clearly, and we will have plenty of opportunities at the end of the webinar to take questions. And if you want to voice your views or give any comments, we will leave plenty of time at the end of the webinar to do so. So you know as well, this webinar is being recorded, and the slides will be available after the webinar on the website. So we will share those with you at the end of the webinar. You have a number of ways to ask questions. You can either send me an email directly. You can see my email here on the bottom of your screen, s.bly@theconsumergoodsforum.com. On the right-hand side of your screen, you also have a small chat box in the webinar tool, and please don't hesitate to type in your questions in this chat box. And as I said, at the end of the webinar, we will unmute all of the lines, and please do give your comments, your observations, your challenges for the work that we're doing here on advertising to children. So just a quick overview of today's agenda, what you'll be hearing about in the coming few minutes. We're going to kick off with just a quick overview of the Consumer Goods Forum strategic framework, so you see where health and wellness fits into the strategic priorities of the forum. We're going to look at the story behind the commitment, why we're working on this collaboratively. We're going to bring you through how to get started, so some of the initiatives that we've taken as a Health and Wellness Steering Committee and Working Group to support and help our member companies to get started on this commitment. You'll hear some insights and learnings from a retailer and manufacturer about what they have done internally in their own organizations working on advertising to children. I'll give you a quick update on measurement and reporting and how we report publicly on our progress. We'll bring you through what's next, what's our thinking, what are we looking at in the future for this commitment. And as I mentioned, plenty of time at the end of the webinar to ask questions. So here you'll see the framework of the Consumer Goods Forum on your screen. So just in one slide to say, I mean, our mission here at the CGF is really bringing together consumer goods manufacturers and retailers and their service provider partners, and we do this for in pursuit of business practices for efficiency, positive change across the industry, and initiatives that benefit shoppers, consumers around the world. We have 400 members in over 70 countries, and therefore all of our strategic priorities are global, they're collaborative, and they're on a parity level between retailers and manufacturers. You can see here the areas where we focus on: sustainability, product safety, health and wellness, end-to-end value chain, and standards. And we really focus on an implementation strategy here at the Consumer Goods Forum, and as I mentioned, collective actions that are collaborative and that are global. So where does health and wellness, you've seen where health and wellness fits into our strategic priorities, and what is the agenda of the health and wellness pillar. So here you'll see our steering committee have decided to focus their collaborative action on a number of different areas. We have 4 commitments: employee health and wellness, nutrition and product formulation, consumer information and product labeling, and advertising to children. And we also started a 5th work stream, scaling up community-based actions, and this is where we're looking at how we can translate those commitments into action at a community level. We also have 3 working groups: stakeholder engagement, measurement and reporting, and communication. And we use these as enablers to help share the positive message of what the industry is doing in the area of health and wellness. So there's a lot going on in the health and wellness pillar, and you can see advertising to children is one of the very important priorities that we focus on here at the forum. So to dive right into the content, I'll hand you over to Fritz from Mars, who's going to update us on the story behind the commitment. Fritz.
Thank you, Sharon. Welcome to this webinar also from my side. So what's behind the commitment? Before we talk about that, firstly, we need to be clear about what is the commitment about. So the commitment says that we want to stop targeted advertising to children under 12 for products they do not fulfill specific nutrition criteria. And the deadline for this commitment is 2018. So we are working against this deadline. And the objective, and just to be clear, when we talk about this commitment here, this is something I think some or probably many of you are aware of, because what we are doing here is building on other commitments other global industry players have already done. For instance, the World Federation of Advertisers and the International Food and Beverage Alliance. So what our commitment here is clearly in line with what other global players here has already committed as well. And the objective of the webinar today is indeed to bring our commitment to life. That means that we want to increase the number of CGF members who publish their own plans in line with the CGF commitments, and or who are joining national and regional pledges, marketing pledges in line with the CGF commitment. When we go to the next slide, then you will see that there is a broad agreement within the CGF membership that responsible marketing to children is a critical pillar of the health and wellness debate. So this is not something which is artificial, but this is really the core of the political debate coming from the World Health Organization to regional and local players around the world. And marketing to children is under increasing external pressure, particularly when they don't meet accepted nutrition criteria. So what is core about our commitment here is that this commitment does respect the rights of parents to make the right choices for their children. So there were a few questions which we had to take into account, which we had to clarify when we talked about the commitment. One is the threshold of age. So why 12 years? As I've mentioned, so our commitment is in line with existing commitment, for instance, from the World Federation of Advertisers. So this discussion is ongoing already now for years. And the CGF agreed to the age threshold of 12, and others did, due to the existing empirical research showing that kids above that age are able to develop their own behaviors and consumers. And why do we talk about 2018 in our commitment? Because you can imagine that some might ask us, so is this ambitious enough? And our thinking is, yes, this is very ambitious, take into account that this is a global commitment where we want to bring the whole CGF membership behind. And this is for retailers and for manufacturers. This is for multinational companies, but for small and medium-sized companies as well. And when you see the broad scope of that commitment, then we think that 2018 is a very ambitious timeline here for our commitment, and we feel very confident about that. Sharon, you want to show video with Peter Friedman right now?
Yeah. So we just wanted to, before we get into some of the insights from Frank and Fritz on how to get started with the commitment, we just wanted to set the scene with a very short video from a number of our CEOs, our board sponsors of the Health and Wellness Pillar, and our Managing Director here at the Consumer Goods Forum, Peter Friedman. So just a very short video to set the scene, and then we'll dive right into insights and learnings on how to implement this commitment. So please bear with the technology. There may be a couple of seconds difference between the sound and the video. So we will reconnect in 3 minutes.
So health and wellness is at the core of the Consumer Goods Forum. Our mission is to bring together consumer goods manufacturers and retailers so that they can work collaboratively on positive change. In health and wellness, we're committed to being part of the solution to this huge global issue. We know that our members can make a big difference. They include healthcare companies, beauty and personal care companies, and of course, food and beverage companies. both manufacturers and retailers. To harness these collaborative efforts, we've agreed on a set of health and wellness resolutions and commitments. We then work with our members, providing them with practical support and guidance on how to implement those resolutions and commitments. Then we bring our members together so that they can learn from each other how manufacturers and retailers can collaborate to help people live healthier lives. Lastly, and to follow up on this work, we measure progress every year.
I'm committed to the Health and Wellness Initiative because health and wellness is at the end the base of healthy, sustainable societies.
I strongly believe that in the society we're in, where people get older, we also need to take care that they remain healthy. And what we can do with food, I think, is a great help for them. This topic is key for the human being and for the planet. Really to select in the stores where we are and to help them to find the right products. That's where really our responsibility lies as an organization, as a retailer. Another aspect is educating our own staff, also for us as a company, to learn how you help your own staff to live healthier. What they can do in their own balance of life is important. We have now to start working according to these resolutions and to deliver.
As an industry, connecting with all partners who are connected with our activity as a company, we can scale up so much more.
Now we invite our members to embrace our collaborative efforts and work with us to enable our industry to demonstrate leadership in the health and wellness space. We will of course be connecting with our network during the course of this year to monitor and learn from the continuous efforts on implementation and innovation. And we'll continue to report on progress. Our members are committed to working in the area of health and wellness and to empowering consumers, ensuring long-term sustainable business growth. We in the Consumer Goods Forum will continue to provide the platform for industry collaboration on health and wellness and harness the enormous possibilities to be part of the solution for healthier consumers, healthier employees, and healthier communities. Thanks a lot.
So thank you very much, everybody. We've seen the story behind the commitment, why we feel this is really important for the CGF to work on at a global level between retailers and manufacturers collaboratively. So we have set the scene, and now we want to look at how to get started. So I'll hand you over to Frank from Ahold to give us some insights on how to get started. Frank.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sharon, for the introduction, and welcome, everybody. Among the members of the CGF, there are many companies who demonstrated their commitment to the resolution and started to implement already, but there is also a fair share of companies who are at the beginning, and for those, a section in the Health and Wellness Toolkit was created. A part of this section is on how to get started. Now, this section is nothing more than a practical guide, basically, where we step-by-step highlight the actions that one can take towards becoming compliant with resolution over time. So step one on the slide is on how to get started. Is about getting the right people from within your organization around the table from different disciplines and discuss basically the impact of the resolution for the company. Making sure all key stakeholders within your company understand the resolution itself, the why, and its background and definitions is very important. So when you start developing a policy for implementation of the resolution, it's important to have executive management support like the board and departments such like marketing and public affairs, compliance, and the category specialists in your company. Step two is about making inventory of your current advertising approach. So to identify basically your channels you use and get a complete picture of where, how, and what you advertise to children. And it's actually recommended to agree to a framework within your company with your key stakeholders for measuring the current product advertising, which would then enable consistent measurement in the different markets you are active throughout the world. Step 3 is about identifying which criteria are relevant and which products meet and don't meet the criteria. Step 4 is to determine how to adapt and comply with the commitment, taking along decision makers within your company. And then last but certainly not least is the step that we want to support each other within the CGF group of manufacturers and retailers by sharing our success stories. It's important, I think, and we all think, I believe, to help and support each other throughout the process of implementation, but also to share what worked and how it has impacted children around the world in a positive way. Now moving to the next slide, we'd like to share with you some of the insights and learnings we had ourselves. Before I hand it over to Fritz, I would like to explain a little bit what Ahold has done in the Czech Republic. Now the Ahold banners have been complying to the current resolution for some time now. But at some point we also felt that we wanted to do more than stop advertising the let's say, more unhealthy product to children. And although we recognize the fact that complying with the current resolution is focus number 1 for the CGF members at this point, it's also, I also wanted to underline the positive impact we can have once we advertise and promote healthy products to children in a fun and attractive way. So let me talk about that a little bit. Our Albert banner in the Czech Republic was the first retailer in a local market to introduce a healthy product line for children, and anticipated by doing so on a growing customer interest in eating healthy. So what we did is 42 own brand products were selected and reformulated where needed together with supplies based on national health criteria. The packaging was changed and Smurf characters appealing to children were added. A campaign was developed and a buzz were created about the new products in stores, but also about eating fruit and vegetables and a healthy meal for children and the impact for families. Recipes were shared and so on. So the new product line allowed us basically to teach children and parents the principles of a healthy diet in a fun and rather positive way. So we felt that the campaign illustrates also how healthy product for children can commercially be successful, because it was. And so for us, the main takeaway was that once the resolution has been met, and it's also important to recognize how we can together drive a positive change in behavior with our customers and support by doing so healthier children in multiple ways. So with that, Fritz, I would like to hand it over to you to share some of your experiences from your company.
Thank you, Frank. So let me talk a few minutes about the Mass Marketing Codex. This Mass Marketing Codex has been launched in 2007, so we have some experience already with that code. I will not, this code is a global commitment not to target children under 12 for all our products, which is fully in line with the CGF commitment. In the interest of time, I will not go into the details of the Mass Marketing Codex today, but you can find more details if you're interested in on our website, mass.com. And as we have after we launched the Codex, we also became member of existing pledges like the EU Pledge or the IFPA Pledge or other national pledges which are in line with our own Codex. What are the lessons we have learned over the years since 2007? As Frank has mentioned already at the beginning when he talked about how to implement that for your own purpose, a top-down approach is crucial for success from our perspective. So it needs to be driven from a CEO downwards, and in our case was also very relevant that the mass marketing codex was endorsed by the Maas family. What is also crucial, so I'm here as a representative of the corporate affairs or public affairs department. But this mass marketing codex is owned by our marketing department, and this is crucial for success because in the end, this is the department who can really implement it and can make it happen. Of course, the support of other functions is needed, but that marketing owns it is really crucial, and this is the case here with Maas. And we also have an annual review, compliance review, which is done by the board, and this is also crucial to measure success. And to be honest, it's not, I think we have high compliance rates, but it's not that we can say we are everywhere 100%. So it's still a journey, and we are still in discussions how we can improve our compliance in some markets. But at least it demonstrates the intention to ensure full compliance. And what is also crucial for success from our side is that it really needs to reach the heart of our marketing people and other functions as well. And they really need to understand how to bring it to life. So therefore we have developed what we call a driver's license, which is mandatory for all marketing people and for our external agencies. This driver license really explains with live examples the do's and don'ts of our codex. And just for you, the World Federation of Advertisers has developed a similar online road test, also with live examples, which can help you how to better comply with your own commitments. You want to work on your own plans. And I think we here, Frank and I and Sharon, are more than happy when there is interest among you also to organize a follow-up or a separate session with WFA, for instance, to explain how such a road test could look like, because this really can help to bring the commitment to life. Sharon?
Thank you, Fritz. So you've seen insights and learnings from 2 of our member companies, and we're building many, many more of these stories, so don't hesitate to connect with us or share your examples. One other element that's very important for us across all of the work that we do in the health and wellness pillar is measurement and reporting. And we really feel to be able to convey the positive message on behalf of our members on your health and wellness goals and actions and what you're implementing at your companies. We find it very, very critical to measure our progress every year. So we do this on an annual basis, and you'll actually receive, we're launching this year's measurement and reporting tomorrow, so you'll actually be receiving an email from me asking you to participate in this year's measurement and reporting. And it's really, really, really important for us, as I said, to reach out to all of our external stakeholders and to build more momentum among the CGF members to have these facts and figures about how we're progressing with the implementation of our commitments. So look out for an email from me inviting you to join the measurement and reporting survey tomorrow. On our website as well, you can see the results from the first report that we did with our full membership last year and a pilot report that we did with our board member companies the year before. So please participate, engage, share your data, and we will all benefit from the positive story that the CGF will be able to report on your behalf. So that I made a call to engage in the reporting. Frank, I think you're going to make a call about why it's so important to get engaged in this commitment.
Yes, Sharon, thank you. We want to increase the involvement amongst our members and help them to move forward together, learn from each other, and that's what it's all about. So this is our first webinar, but there could be much more to come as it is well accepted. And looking at the large group dialing in today to the webinar, it underlines the interest in the topic. And as Fritz mentioned, we could have more in-depth discussions going forward. So the webinar in itself is a call to action, and we'd like to underline that it's a collaborative process with all the CGF members. As a working group, we are driving the commitment and report progress back, as Sharon mentioned, via the steering group and the CGF board. And the working group, we are interested in working with more retailers and manufacturers together to drive this agenda. So please, if you are interested to join the working group, please let us know, and we can jointly move forward on that. Sharon, is there anything for you to add?
No, I think that was a good call to action. You will have our contact details after this webinar, so if you're interested in connecting with us, please do. We're an open and collaborative network for our members, so get in contact with myself, Frank, or Fritz. So the next question is, well, what's next? What are we looking ahead at in our commitment on advertising to children? And Fritz will bring us through this.
Yeah, thank you. So, as we mentioned, we do work against the 2018 deadline, which means that we have 2.5 years to support you on the implementation of this commitment. We do discuss with manufacturers, or we do discuss what manufacturers and retailers can do together to drive the commitment, because this is what the Consumer Goods Forum commitment is. This is what makes the Consumer Goods Forum commitment unique. Of course, we will review the existing commitment, and we will ask the board to update their commitment where needed to make sure that we are on top of the external debate. Just want to give you one example where we have a discussion right now within our working group. This is about the question whether the current commitment about advertising to kids is really reflecting the right scope of our work, or whether we need to move to a broader scope of our commitment, which would cover more than just advertising, which in the external understanding very often means TV, just TV, and where we know that the core of the current debate about responsible marketing is also about how to cover the digital world, for instance. And in order to be meaningful and credible with our commitment, so we need to have a discussion about that, how an updated commitment on this could look like. So this is something where we prepare a proposal for the next board in December, how to make sure that really we have a credible, meaningful commitment here. And we also want to review the KPIs for implementation, particularly so how the roadmap for 2016 and 17 with the KPIs will look like to make sure that we achieve full implementation and compliance by 2018. So when we go to the next slide, what can you do right now? Firstly, as you know, we have a toolkit on the CGF website, consumergoodsforbetterlives.com, which provides you with information how to implement the ATC commitment. So please make use out of it. Then it would be very helpful that we don't always need to reinvent the wheel, but that we can steal with pride what others have done already. So we started to share our experience today from Ahold and Mars, but we know there are many, many other great examples already there. Some of them you can find in the toolkit, but we are sure that there are more good good practices existing. So please share those practices with Sharon and with us and with all of the CGF members. And last but not least, don't hesitate to contact Sharon, Frank, or me for any questions or any need for additional support. Thanks. Sharon?
Thank you very much, both of you. And we, as we had planned, we have ample time for questions at the end of today's webinar. So we have three options: either send me an email, s.bly@theconsumergoodsforum.com. You can also use the the webinar chat screen, which is on the right-hand corner of your screen, or I will in 5 minutes unmute all of the lines so we can take your questions by phone. So I have received 1 or 2 questions for you, Frank and Fritz, by email. The first question is, you mentioned the WFA. Can you give us just more details on how you work with the World Federation of Advertisers? So Frank or Fritz.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. The World Federation of Advertisers is part of our working group, and from the beginning, and so therefore they are there as experts in the end to make sure what we are discussing in the end is really in line with the external debate on external expectations. And as they have a lot of experience, not only with supporting markets and regions on pledges, but also companies how to implement commitments like the CGF commitment. We really do rely on their support, and yes, as they are part, regular member of our working group, we make sure that we work closely together with them. Frank, I don't know whether you have anything in addition.
No, I fully agree. I think that says it all. Just to add to that a little bit, is we also look at different sources. If we're looking at the definition, the current definition of advertising versus marketing, as you mentioned, Fritz, we're looking at current research that's been done to make sure we're well prepared for the proposal we will bring to the steering committee later on this year, and later on to the board as well in December. So there are different groups that we'd like to interact with to get as well prepared as possible.
Great, thank you. I have another question from Pick n Pay in South Africa. Are individual companies encouraged to develop their own nutrition criteria based on national dietary guidelines, or is there a best practice that we could refer to? So the question of nutrition criteria, national dietary guidelines.
Right. Yeah, happy to give you my thoughts on that. So we always have seen what the EU pledge has done a little bit as best practice here, where all members of the EU pledge agreed on common nutrition criteria, right? You always will get more acceptance also by partners outside industry when you don't come up with individual company criteria, but when there's a broader agreement among sectors or even beyond individual sectors on common criteria. It's always difficult when, for instance, within one sector you would work with different criteria, because then I think you will have discussion about transparency for consumers and for stakeholders about those criteria. So therefore, we would see the EU pledge criteria a little bit as a best practice, but we know also, I think also what we learned from some discussion with the World Federation of Advertisers, of course, we need to adapt those criteria to different cultural contexts and consumer habits. So therefore, we know that also common nutrition criteria, for instance, food and beverage industry or companies in the US look slightly different than the EU pledge criteria. In Singapore, for instance, we have slightly different criteria as well. Not too different, but definitely also I think it's important to adapt it to local situation or regional situation, but I really would go for a broad consensus and broad industry alignment, at least within a given market. This would make it more credible. This would be my view on that.
No, definitely, Fritz. And to add to that, I think this is a topic. This is a topic for research continuously, and therefore this area will develop over time, and insights will be integrated in existing criteria once they are updated by the different nations and institutes. So I think this is an ongoing discussion and that we will have going forward. But other than that, I agree with your comment.
Yeah, just one point to add. You might be aware that also the World Health Organization has, at least the WHO Europe has developed own nutrition criteria. And we haven't mentioned it specifically, but of course, in what we are doing here with this commitment, we also want to demonstrate that safe regulation works, right? That we can really do our own job and can live up to our own commitments. And therefore, we need to be very careful how to develop those criteria that they are really perceived as credible, particularly in the current political debate. Sorry.
Thank you.
Sharon.
I have another question by email, and then I'll open the phone lines. Very simple question: what are you going to measure? I'm happy to jump in for that one if you like.
Sure, go ahead, sure.
Yep. So you will receive the invitation tomorrow to join our measurement survey. So on this commitment, we want to understand if your company has a policy governing its advertising to children that aligns with the CGF commitment. We want to know if your company monitors compliance. We want to know what your compliance rate is. We'd like to know if the compliance was externally audited. And we'd like to know if your company is adhered to local or regional pledges on advertising to children, such as some of the ones mentioned, the World Federation of Advertisers, the EU pledge, the Singapore pledge. So those 5 questions will be how we will measure our members' implementation of the commitment on advertising to children. And if there's any other questions on the measurement, you can, of course, contact me directly. Great. So we thank you very, very much for your time on today's webinar. As I said, it is being recorded and the slides will be available. Don't hesitate to connect with us. You see here on a screen the Consumer Goods Forum website, our specific health and wellness website. You can follow us on LinkedIn or Twitter. We have specific accounts on both, so please do follow us. If you'd like to know more about what Ahold is doing or what Mars are doing or other companies, members of the CGF, just reach out to us and we'll make sure that you get the links to the right information to help you implement this commitment. So thank you very much, Frank and Fritz, for sharing your insights and learnings today, and for everyone who joined the webinar. We appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.